So this is my piano composition track. Everything's frozen at the moment because the computer's really not liking it. It must just be because I've been using plugins and there's lots and lots of different sort of notes all playing at the same time. It's just struggling. So everything's frozen, which is effectively the same as turning it into audio temporarily, but saving the data there, so that you can unfreeze it and change the sounds. I've just been doing a mix on it. So at the beginning, we've got this sort of EQ cut where it centers everything in the middle. That is automated on a master so that it obviously opens up and you get the full frequency range for the rest of the track. I'm just going to go through sound at a time so we can see what's going on. So these are the drum sounds. Not really much has been done here in terms of the mix because it was quite a nice sounding kit to begin with. What I have done is I've added some width, and I've made sure that the bass stays mono up to 355 Hertz. There's more drum stuff here. This is just a group I've put onto one of my drum tracks because it stops me having to unfreeze stuff and I can still put an EQ and do various things with it without unfreezing the track because it takes ages to refreeze. And this is just a little dip around sort of 80 Hertz. Just rolling off a little bit of that bass. Just keep going through. This is another kit. This one didn't really need an awful lot. This is just an 808 kit. I have rolled off a little bit of the bass on that. Here is just a looped sample with some cool sort of percussive sounds. And again, I've tried not to treat stuff because I don't want to bring in any distortion really, so I think less is more in the case, especially with a track like this where there's absolutely tons going on. As long as I'm sort of keeping just the frequencies that I want, there's not going to be too much fighting at each other. This sound is another percussive sound. Now because I already have a drum kit going over the top of that, I've rolled off all the bass, so that's just a little sound. Going onto the piano, again I've made the piano as wide as it'll possibly go. This one I've kept the bass mono up to 120 Hertz, giving it a little bit of compression, but with these plugins it really doesn't take an awful lot to get them sounding nice. Now this was a nightmare because it's been glitching out and just the tail of the track, whatever the final note is, it'll hold it indefinitely. So all I've done to correct that, let me just go in here. I have put a utility on it and I have drawn where I want the thing to end so that that'll just fade out there. Not the best way of doing it, but it works. And usually I would aim to fix the problem by maybe reloading the track or anything, but I was already at a mix stage and I'm running a little bit low on time now, so time to get everything finished off as best I can. Here we have this really nice sound. What I found with this was there was actually quite a lot of bass in there, so I've cut the bass out, but I've given it a little bit of a boost just around 100 Hertz so it still has that thickness to it. Again, I've spread it as much as it'll go. Bass is mono up to 120 Hertz. Not really done anything on that. Here we have lovely chord stabs. So again, it's more just about making room for everything else in the mix. So I've peaked it where I think it comes through nicely, where there's a bit of space, and then I've done a little cut on the bass, I then again made it just that little bit wider. I've not gone all the way with that one. It sounded a bit washy when it was too wide. Going on to the bass, the sub was way too loud. So what I've done is I've just turned the volume down on the sub, and I've brought the bass guitar up, so this beginning part so I've turned the bass group down and then turned the bass guitar inside that group up so that you could still hear it. Strings I've had fun with, because what I've done is I've gone through and I've panned them all to different speakers. Obviously not all the way. And one of them I have gone inside and I've done it with an EQ, I think it was this one, so that obviously I can have the bass central but still pan everything else off to the right. So that's been done slightly differently there, but basically I've just spread everything really thick with the strings, just like an orchestra would be. So getting a bit more of a natural sound there as well. These are the samples. I love putting things like this in. Bit of atmosphere does loads to the music. I don't know if you'll hear that on its own. Just a stream and some birds. It was a bit loud, so I've turned that down. And the noise I have brought down, because I always like to put a bit more atmosphere on with these noise. It's just white noise with modulation. And I've obviously just gone through and drawn the shapes of what I want it to play. It fills out the top end as well, gives it a bit more air. The vocals have had loads of work. Now, with this, I've gone through and I've EQ'd it. I have compressed it 3 or 4 times. So we've got compression stage 1, 2, multi-band, so that's like a de-esser, but it also controls the mids a little bit, and then a limiter on the end, and that's got some gain modulation on it as well. So how this works is the compressor is on the whole track. I'm just gonna have to hold this phone slightly differently, it's quite heavy after a while. It's modulated the volume. So what happens is it gets to this section here, and the vocals sounded a bit over compressed, because instead of it being there's not as much sort of bass in the vocals, so the vocals were much louder, but then they were getting squashed too much. So instead what I've done is, for that section I've automated for the first 2 compressors to switch off. It's still got the limiter on there and the multi-band, but then I've automated the gain so it goes up by 3 or 4 dB so that it sounds like this. I'm not going to play you the whole track again because you've heard it on previous videos, but the next job I'm going to go through, and I'm going to drag everything across so there's a bit of space at the middle, and I'm going to bounce it down. I'm going to put all my tracks into a file where I can start mastering them.